All right, y'all. This is the new strategy I've recently discovered. It's really simple. Basically, it's just catching the third push of the day. I learned way back in like 2015 when I started trading from this dude named Steve Morrow. A lot of y'all probably know him from Beat the Market Maker, that strategy. Well, when I was trying to learn the Beat the Market Maker strategy, he would talk about how a lot of times there's going to be three intraday pushes, like three main pushes in the market for each day. So, like for example, this particular day, you've got push number 1, retrace, push number 2, consolidate, and then I guess you could say push 3 and 4 kind of, but there's going to be at least 3 pushes. And the whole idea of this strategy is simply catching the third push, but it has to be done in a very specific way. So for this particular strategy, which I don't have a name for it yet, I want y'all to think of a name for me and give me some ideas. But the first major rule is this will always be a New York session entry. The reason being, the way that I look at this and identify it, if I put my day breakers on, that'll actually help us look at these 3 pushes as well. So let me put the day breakers on, and your first push is always going to be in the Asian session. So like right here, that's our first push. A clear up move is going to give you a clear retrace with a little bit of space before it makes the next move. So like this red candle is not going to turn right into a green candle straight up next to it. It's going to give you just a little bit of space in between. So you got this first move here, retrace. You get a London push, and then this one consolidated, and then you get the third push of the day. First push will always be in Asian session. The second push will always be in the London session. You catch the third entry. I'm sorry, you catch the entry in New York to catch that third push when it grabs the 50 EMA like we always do. So after that third push, where was I? Here it goes. It comes down and grabs the 50 EMA like I always do. And then you take that trade. This particular trade, you could have called about 65 pips on, but there are a couple more rules that I do need to make you aware of. But just to recap, keep in mind, New York session entry only. The first push will be in the Asian session. Second push will be in London. And then you get your entry. But the other things that you need to keep in mind is that the second push, it has to close past the whole Asian push. And when I say past the Asian push, I mean wicks and everything. Like I know I have a rule on Londonine where I say the Londonine candle has to pass the whole Asian consolidation, but I'm just talking about the candle bodies when I say that. In this strategy, it has to close above, if this had a wick, it would need to close above even the wicks, which this one does because no one had no wicks. But I'm just saying, we'll see some other examples where it does. So that's another rule. And then the last rule is you do need to check the reassurance chart. And what you need to check on here is to make sure that the moving averages are not spanned in order. And when I say spanned in order, let me backtrack. This is what I mean. Like this is fully spanned right here, where the moving averages are in the proper order. Since it's in an up move, you've got the 400, the 200, the 60, and the 33 in the proper order, spanned, like spanned out, fanned out, whatever you want to call it, versus over here where we're looking right here. This is where we are. You see that they are not spanned. Now right here, well, I say when the blue comes above the yellow right here, now they're officially spanned. So I'll say about right here is where the moving average is officially spanned in the proper order. The entry on this trade is right here though, and it's not spanned yet. Every example that I found that actually works, it's not spanned. Oh, I can't believe I forgot to say this. USD pairs only. Did I say that earlier? I don't remember. If I didn't, this will be for USD pairs only. I've back tested this on all the pairs that I trade, and the pairs that were not USD, the only one that I found where it worked was GJ, and it was really weird looking, but I mean technically it worked. But all the ones where it worked and it worked well, it was a USD pair. So I will only trade this strategy on the USD. I promise you, I done back tested the last 6 to 8 months on all the other pairs, all the yen pairs and stuff like that. The like Euro CAD, GBP CAD. Stick to USD pairs for this strategy. All right, so let's look at some other examples. I'm just going to speed through a bunch of examples real quick just so you can get an idea of how to look. So here's one on GBP USD. We are looking right here in this area, and here you've got the Asian session start. That's the first push. It gives you, remember, a little bit of space. Here's the second push in the London session. It completely engulfs the entire Asian session thing. It comes down. We go to the 15-minute time frame on, what was that, May 3rd? Well, wait a minute, wrong way. I don't know, usually anyway, so we come down on May 3rd. We enter below the 50 EMA. This particular trade went almost 100 pips. Also, we need to double check before we take that entry, though. We need to double check the reassurance chart and make sure that the moving averages are not spanned in the right order when we take that trade. So it looks, you might have got confused right here. So it's important to know what moving average is what. The 400 and 200 are spanned in the right order, but then the 33 is under the 60 right there. So it's not officially spanned. It does once it crossed over right here. Now it's spanned in the right order over here, but not yet here. So that's good. That's what we want. We don't want it to be spanned. So there's an example. Here's another example a few days over. This is a sale example. You've got price that it comes down here. It comes up. It's got just a little bit of space because of this wick right here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's giving us a little bit of space between there to give us a pretty obvious hint that this is a completely different second push. So this second push comes down, it closes past everything over here, even the wick. It comes up into the New York session. We go to the 15-minute time frame. That was May 11th. It comes above the 50 EMA, and we go ahead and enter that. Let's see what time, 4:30. I'm not entering yet because I'm not. Okay, so in my trading hours, it would have had to have been on this wick right here. So I enter here above the 50 EMA. That's a 100 pip day there. Let's go back to the H1 time frame and just double check the reassurance chart though, so I can show you that moving averages are not spanned. Now, clearly this is a downtrend, so that means the 400 would have to be on top. The 200 would have to be on the bottom, and then followed by the blue and the green. So this doesn't span in the right order until like right here for the downtrend. This would be considered spanned in the right order: red, yellow, blue, green, as far as how my chart is laid out, my color scheme. But so this is another example, 400 pips on GBP USD. This is the most recent one that I found right here on USD JPY. This is actually the trade where I made this strategy official, where I was like, okay, there it is again. I'm making this official. I'm about to make a video. This is the one that did it for me on August 23rd. USD JPY right here in this area here. You have the Asian session push. That's one. It gives us a clear consolidation. A clear London session push for push number 2, and that closed past all the wicks and everything over here. It comes back up into the New York session. We go to the 15-minute time frame. We was on August 23rd. We enter up here above the 50 EMA. Bam. That is potentially right at about 102 pips if you just catch the very bottom of that. But that's a solid trade for lots of pips right there. But of course, let me make sure I show you the reassurance chart on that as well. Remember, we're looking right here in this area, and you can see we are nowhere near, our moving averages are nowhere near being spanned in the proper order. Let's take a look at another one. Oh, and just the Ehlers Fisher does not matter in this strategy whatsoever. All you're really looking for is if you wake up for New York session, or you're already up for a New York session and you see you've got 2 major pushes in the day already, you need to take a look and see if this might be what's about to play out. But the Ehlers Fisher does not matter. These moving averages don't matter. That's why it's a pretty simple strategy. Just the moving averages on the other chart, yeah, but mainly you're just looking for 1, 2 pushes, and just start kind of seeing if that might be a third push on the way. But oh, here we go. So now this one is a tough one, but it did work. This one's on USD CAD in July 13th. We're looking right here in this area. The Asian session gave you a down move right at the end of Asian session, but it did give you a down move. It came up in London, came down for push number 2. Of course, you go to the 15-minute time frame, and it was on this one right here. Catch that above the 50 EMA. That's about a 65 pip trade. And then, but just to be for super sure, remember we're looking right here. We're going to go to the reassurance chart. Bam. And on this one, the moving averages are not spanned because the 200 is above the 400. So that is not spanned because we're in a downtrend. The blue and the green are in the right order, but this yellow needs to be up under there for it to be spanned properly. And remember, we do not want it to be spanned in the proper order. So you got to know what moving average is what. Let's take a look at another one. I'm going to just go through one other pair. Let's do a few that I found on gold, and then we will close this video out. Let's see. It was somewhere up in here. Here we go. All right. So here's one on gold here. Right here. So you've got this Asian session push number 1, boom, which it pushes down. It comes up. The second push starts in London session. It goes down. It closes past the wicks and everything you got over here. It comes back up for New York. Go to the 15-minute time frame. Excuse me. This will be the entry right here above the 50 EMA. You could have caught right around 100 pips on that one. And again, we're looking right here in this area. I'm gonna go to the reassurance chart though, because we would have needed to do this first. That's blatantly obvious. The moving averages are not spanned in the proper order. If the move is going down, if you're selling it, then you want the moving averages. You want to make sure the moving averages are not spanned downwards. So like, let's say for example, so the moving averages are spanned in the proper order going up right here. But if we would have got like this was almost one, but it wasn't. That ain't what it was. But let's just say the moving averages are spanned. Like if you're selling and the moving averages are spanned in the proper order going up, it doesn't matter. It's not spanned in the proper order for a sale. So you're still good. Just make sure it's not spanned in the proper order for the direction you're trading. But let's look at another example. Let me see. It was in June, in the middle of June somewhere. Here it is right here. All right. So here's one in June. We're looking right here in this area. I just went ahead and left it on the reassurance chart to show you that it's not spanned in the proper order. Actually, and this is a perfect example of what I just said. This is spanned in the proper order for a sell, but this is going to be a buy for us. So you've got push number 1 in Asian session, retrace, push number 2 in the London session, and the top of this closes past everything over here, the wicks and everything. It comes down. We go to the 15-minute time frame. Hold on, let me go back to this my main chart. Go to the 15-minute time frame. This was June 14. It's under the what's the name? It's under the 50 EMA. You go ahead and enter here, and that's a very quick 130 pips. And then granted, it turned around and went down for the rest of the day there. But if you're not TPing or securing some profits on 130 pips, then that's a humongous greed problem. So you better not lose on that. Okay, and then here is one on May the 9th on gold, looking right here. Asian push 1, down. London push 2, down. We need to catch the bottom of this. Go to the 15-minute time frame. That's on May 9th. We catch that under the 50 EMA. So we enter somewhere around in here. You have a little bit of drawdown depending on where you get in, but ultimately that's over 100 pip trade that same day. The moving averages do not matter on the 15-minute time frame as far as like what, if they're spanned, or if the 50 is crossed over to 144 and all that. None of that matters. The only moving averages that matter in this strategy are the moving averages on the reassurance chart. Which, did I show that on this one? I can't even remember. So we were looking right here on May 9th. Let me go to the reassurance chart just to show you that for a buy, these are in the proper order, but this hadn't crossed over like it did right here. Now it's spanned after the 33 crossed over to 60 right here, but at the time of our entry, it wasn't spanned in the proper order yet. So we were good to take that trade. So just to speed through the rules one more time, USD pairs only, New York session entry only. The first push has to be in Asian session. Second push has to be in London session. Catch the bottom of the third push for the New York entry. Moving averages on the reassurance chart cannot be spanned in the proper order for the direction that you're going to trade it in. That's it. Those are the rules. All right, so now I'm going to go over a couple of examples of ones that did not work so that you can kind of see what that looks like in action. So we just looked at this example. I think this was the first example I showed on EU, but just scrolling just a little bit to the left, let's take a look like right here where we had a push in Asian session, another push in the London session. Why would I have not taken this one? Well, because by the time my trading hours started in New York session, price was already leveled off with the top of this right here. And in none of the other examples that I showed, like price hadn't closed there yet. This one wicked close to it, but this was during our trading hours over here. Right here, this is outside of our trading hours, and H1 closed all the way up here level with the top of this, that first push. So I wouldn't even entertain that. But so that's just one thing I would say look out for is if price after that third push is retraced all the way to the top of the previous lower high or higher low, whatever the case, then yeah, leave that alone. Here's actually another example I would show. This one, there's a push down, up, down. Now, first of all, there's no space in between this. It's just straight up and down, and I don't like that. But that push down, you can say that's the London push for push number 2. The problem with this one, oh, and I forgot to say that rule. Doggone it. I knew I was going to jack something up. Here it is. But the problem with that one is it came out of the bands on the 15-minute chart, on the 15-minute time frame. So if you see before it goes up for the entry, same as P10, it's the same rule as P10. Before it hits that entry, just make sure it's not coming out of the bands on the 15-minute time frame. My fault. I forgot to say that. I forgot to write it down. So I forgot to say it until I just saw this. So I'm glad I showed this example. All right. So here's an example on the USD CAD looking right here in this area. So right here, this Asian session doesn't really have a clear direction because it's very much down and then very much up. It's one thing if it's straight across and then makes a move at the last minute. Like I know we saw an example of one. I can't remember which one it was on, but we saw one where price was very flat in the Asian session and then it took off right at the end. But this right here, I mean, it's down and all the way up. That's already an indication that this is going to be stupid. But let's just say, for example, you count this as push number 1 to the upside. Here's push number 2. Well, what's wrong with push number 2? It doesn't close all the way above this wick. Remember, it has to close above all of push number 1. So if this is push number 1, this wick has to get closed past, and price didn't close past that wick on push number 2. That already invalidates that. So by the time this came up, first of all, and then two, it made push number 3 already. It came down. You could have got in right here, but then of course you see you would have been in profit for a little bit, and then you would ended up getting stopped out if you didn't go BE. But that's why that particular trade didn't work. And then there's a couple other examples I had seen. Let me see. Here we go. So here's one right here that looks really good. It went down for push number 1 in Asian session, up. Then it went down for push number 2 in the London session on July 20th. Let me scroll over. So we got 2 issues right here. Number 1 is coming out of the bands. So that's your first hint. Leave that mess alone. But number 2, if I go to the reassurance chart, this is spanned in the proper order. So that's rule number 2. I'm sorry, that's reason number 2 to leave that trade alone. The MAs on the reassurance chart are spanned properly for a sale. So we do not want to take that trade. There's another example of where the MAs are spanned properly over here. I believe it was June. Yep, right here. Looking in this area, you had Asian push. Oops. You had Asian push number 1, London push number 2. But our MAs are spanned properly. That's really the only reason to not take that one. I think if we would have gone to the 15-minute time frame, let's see, that's June 8th. So yeah, that was not coming out the bands. So the reason that one wouldn't have worked for that sale, which you would have gotten in about right here, it would have went down at first, but then as you see, we would have gotten, eventually would have got taken out. Because let's say we would have got in here, you put, well, I mean, it went up 29 pips. That's definitely going to hit any stop loss anybody would have put on there for my strategy. So, but again, it's because the moving averages were spanned on the reassurance chart when we were looking right here when this happened. So those are just a couple of examples to show why I say make sure that the moving averages on the reassurance chart are not spanned. And also make sure if it's coming out the bands on M15, leave that alone as well. All right. But yeah, y'all help me come up with a name for this one. Cause I had thought about Three Stooges, but then I'm like, man, I don't know how many people are my age or above in the group. So I might be showing my age talking about the Three Stooges. I don't know if y'all know about the Three Stooges like that, but that's the only thing I really could think of when I was thinking. And then I also thought about, since it's New York only and it's a third push, I was thinking about like New York baseball team. Like, what's a famous pitcher on a New York baseball team, like a Three Strikes or just a pitcher in general, like just a famous pitcher who used to strike a bunch of people out, like Nolan Ryan or Greg Maddux, or I don't know. But I'm just trying to think, like, what would I want to call this? Something having to do with a third strike or the Three Stooges or lightning bolt, because it's kind of, that zigzag motion, like a lightning bolt or something. I don't know. But anyway, y'all help me come up with a name, whatever you think of, and we'll do a poll or something like that. All right. That's the strategy. I hope y'all have a good weekend.